Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to my Politics 2100 video cast here on YouTube. So I'm calling this episode Young Turks Continue Offering Progressives Macroeconomic Ignorance of the GOP. And I trying to make these titles so it's not particularly catchy, that one, but anyway, I'm trying to put the content, as much as possible, of the content into the title. So this is kind of a follow-up on a blog post I did about 2.5 years ago. I'll put the link in the description box, where I criticized the Young Turks, Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian in particular, who are the leading Young Turks, about their economics. So I am generally, or I am very supportive. I'm a subscriber to the Young Turks through their website, and also though you can subscribe other ways. And I encourage people to look at the Young Turks and look at their various videos. They have a number of channels on their sort of network, online network, and you can often get very good information from and commentary via the Young Turks, and I attempt to see what they're covering and look at many of their videos when I can, and I think that they provide a good political voice on a lot of issues, but unfortunately, they continue to slip into their good to very good, from my perspective, political insights and reporting or commentary on other people's reporting. They continue to slip into that, an ignorance of basic macroeconomic concepts that come from Keynes, that have, in more recent times, or are most strongly represented now by the modern monetary theory school of economics. And they are, now while they're not alone in having that perspective that they have, they are being, in my mind, outstripped or, being made obsolete in their economic views by, for instance, the Majority Report, which has Sam Cedar and the commentators on the Majority Report have absorbed many of the insights of modern monetary theory, and so their commentary is more in tune with that. And while modern monetary theory is approximately 25 or 30 years old, the insights upon which it builds from John Maynard Keynes are 80, 90 years old, and are some of the basis for which the macroeconomic, or the profession of macroeconomics, has been built. And so what happens is that often when Anna Kasparian or Cenk Uygur start to talk about economics, they talk with great certainty, but with, in my mind, ignorance of, and I believe not only in my mind, ignorance of what Keynes taught, and also about money, and also what modern monetary theory then has developed further, especially for the era of true fiat currencies, which are most of the currencies of the world now, and certainly the dominant currency, the dollar and the euro, and are fiat currencies. And so my basic criticism, which I leveled in my blog post several years ago, and Cenk and Anna have changed maybe just a little bit more in the area of political demands. In other words, they simulate, in some ways, a more progressive position than their economics would suggest. So they're kind of trying to live both worlds. In other words, to serve basically the old hard money views of what I'm calling GOP economics or GOP ignorant economics, which is also shared by parts of the Democratic Party, including the neoliberal parts of the Democratic Party that Cenk and Anna are opposed to. So in other words, they feed unconsciously or unawares, they feed the forces that they fight against in um, uh, their political commentary and their criticisms of U.S. politics and also U.S. economics to some degree, or the political economy of the United States. So they and so this is basically they're not, their position is not too far from, or it's very similar to that of Bernie Sanders. I mean, they also sometimes criticize Bernie Sanders, but not so much on this economics area. But so unfortunately, Bernie Sanders has not absorbed the lessons of modern monetary theory, even though he had a close and does have a close association among other people, Stephanie Kelton, who is one of the leading modern monetary theory economists. So MMT, let's call it MMT for short here. So and so Sanders is often harping on and saying that we need to tax the billionaires as an entry point, as a gateway for us demanding from government that it spends money on our spending priorities, whatever they are, in social spending, climate emergency spending, any of those things. The government needs to spend on fiat. In other words, well, it always is spending on fiat, but with the pretense that it needs to pay for that spending via taxation, immediately blocks people from demanding with full authority that and I call it seniority in my writing, and I've called it seniority in the past. In other words, that to be as senior as the defense industry in demanding from the U.S. Treasury and the Fed, the spending authority, or the Congress, which authorized then spending by the Treasury and the Fed, that the progressives, or the people demanding social spending, people demanding climate spending on climate, any of the progressive concerns that have been minimized or have been downsized in the current Build Back Better bill, and that was just passed in Congress, and the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which essentially had very little of those priorities embedded in it. So anyway, so this this idea that we are using a hard currency like the old gold standard, in other words, that we need to match every dollar with a tax dollar that's taken out of the economy, that essentially the pool of money in the economy should remain stable and the same size, and so it means either taxing from the rich or you can't spend. Okay, and so this is or you can't spend wisely or prudently or whatever, or you're endangering. You are going to cause inflation. So right now, just to kind of remove the inflation fear mongering from this particular discussion for the time being, most people discussing inflation intelligently talk about the supply issues currently due to COVID-19 and also the manipulation of oil markets, which, by the way, Young Turks also have commented on. So they are not ignorant of this issue of inflation. They, at least with regard to most goods currently. But anyway, so the Young Turks inject into their commentary, as does Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders is often saying taxing the billionaires is like the number one priority, that we have to do that, that somehow we need their money, okay? We need their money to spend. The government needs their money to spend, okay? And it's a conceit that he should know better. He's listened to Stephanie. He's he still doesn't get rid of that idea, and he is attempting to appear prudent, to appear like he's not a quote unquote tax and spend liberal. Actually, he is trying to tax and spend, but it literally free spending maybe is a better word. Free spending liberal that's sort of endangering inflation us with inflation by spending too much. Well, the issue currently with inflation is that it's not spending too much. Okay, so that's pretty clear. And but anyway, the Young Turks have especially now this. Some of this is specific to its location in Los Angeles, and Anna Kasparian, who grew up in Los Angeles and also is focused on the local politics there. They're seeing some real estate speculation, and which is some of it enabled by monetary policy, but is not directly. It has something to do with the wealth inequality and the way that we spend money in building is often to spend to park all the money that has been not really earned but has been accumulated via speculation and via the sort of Ponzi economy that we live in now, the financialization of our economy, the continuing spiraling up of the stock market, among other things, that creates what I've called Ponzi circuits. Informally, I have something I need to write, but it's I mean, this is a circuitous view of the economy that basically, and I mean, William Lazonick has talked about, he doesn't use the word Ponzi circuits, but he talks about the stock buyback, the change in our economy due to, among other things, stock buybacks being made legal like 30 years ago. So anyway, this creates this kind of circuit of money, and some of that money does get invested in real estate, and that real estate is often high-end or almost always high-end real estate that creates in some cities, some more desirable cities, something of a property bubble, or often a property bubble in some of the more desirable parts of the country, and Wall Street is trying to park some of its money in real estate. So, but this that's true. That's a true statement that I would agree with Anna Kasparian and also Cenk Uygur to some degree that phenomenon is happening, but it's not the idea that they're agitating for raising interest rates. So raising interest rate, they're seeing the low interest rates are causing this, or that one of the things that are causing this speculative bubble in real estate, and they have some contributing factor, or they contribute somewhat to this, but to do the opposite, to raise interest rates, is going to hurt working people more than it's going to hurt these speculators. So, and to raise interest rates is only good for people who already hold wealth and who are bond holders essentially, and so the most conservative rich people, okay, not working people, and so they are essentially agitating for the creditors. Okay, the people I'm talking about are creditors, rather than for, now this requires one to differentiate between parts of the capitalist class, but anyway, there are the creditors, and then there are the speculative debtors, some of whom are doing productive activities like building buildings, even though some of the things they're building are of some use to some people, often with people who have some money, okay, or who are in the upper middle class, and so they are not serving the public with, there is no currently in our economy no system of building buildings that is not that form of building, or let's say no large established system. Most of the habitations, most of the new buildings which we need in many of these areas are built by capitalists who are trying to make money, and so and developers who are the capitalist in that area. So now low interest rates do help them, okay, in terms of the cost of building, and then the ability to sell those buildings. In other words, so not as much money goes to banks, to creditors, because of low interest rates. So so this differentiation between these two groups within, they're both capitalists, but one of them is a creditor capitalist, the other one is a productive capitalist who works with cheap money, or having cheap money helps them. So, but there are other parts of the economy that's helped by cheap money. So any part of any factory is helped by cheap money. So any business that works on credit is helped by zero interest rates. And so this is something, or near zero interest rates. So this is something that John Maynard Keynes advocated for, essentially, to have permanent zero interest rates. He wanted to euthanize the creditor class. He wanted to make living off the interest off loans to be a outdated concept, and so he was for the productive part of the economy. And in the era in which Keynes dominated economics, in, let's say, the era from 1933 to 1973, productive, the productive forces, or what you would say, of the economies in Western countries were relatively well served. Okay, and then in the period in which Keynes no longer dominated the economic policy suggestions or orientation of governments, it's become the era of speculative, but financial capitalists, but not, or creditors, or people who are creating these Ponzi circuits, of capital, which don't produce productive assets, don't hire workers. Okay, hire people at wages to do things that are productive. And so anyway, so the stories that Anna and Cenk tell about the economy are really stories of I don't want to use a petit bourgeois economics, or an economics where but not even petit bourgeois is kind of a put down that's, it has its negative side to it that I don't really, but it sounds like people who have cobbled together an economics that's really about listening to old people who have some money somewhere, have some property, own some property, but are not super wealthy, but are conservative in their economics. That they feel like that any new, for instance, new buildings built in their neighborhood devalue their one big investment, which is their home, and they feel like they want to stop that. That's the primary. Anything that those people are the evil people, the people who, those speculative capitalists who build those buildings, the productive capitalists, and then the creditors, and so the prescriptions that Anna and Cenk have created in videos of late. I'll try to put links in the video. There have been a few videos, so I'm not focusing on one particular video, but this is a fairly predictable narrative that they're telling about the economy. And it is so number one, so they talk about taxation. So probably, what I'm talking about is a little bit arcane in terms of Keynes and interest rates and so forth and so on. But this is something that Anna and Cenk have created a narrative which they feel convinced is true. Okay, they think it's absolutely true, and furthermore, they think it's progressive when it is regressive. Okay, and then and it doesn't serve the need for people to gain higher wages, for people to for us to spend more on progressive priorities. So, and then I mean, this other more relevant to that is that they continue to harp on this idea that I talked about with Sanders, but that they believe that taxation is the true progressive is someone who demands that the taxation levels are the top priority, okay, of an administration or a politician who is considered to be progressive, that they need to demand that corporations and billionaires pay higher taxes, and that's kind of the entry point. That without that money, the government can't spend anything. Okay, and this is where modern money theory comes in and says, no. Modern monetary theory comes in and says, no, you just don't understand how the government works, and that's literally the case with the Young Turks, and they are continuing to see the millions of people who watch their programs, or hundreds of thousands maybe, who watch them religiously, with these ideas about hard money, that the government needs that money from the rich people. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It won't work, or we'll have inflation, or and that they've, I think that Cenk put that out, that's one of the very right-wing conservative ways to talk about government spending, is that every dollar that goes in deficit, in other words, a deficit spending adds to the amount of money in circulation. So because it's not taken out by taxes, so it's on quote unquote deficit, a very poor term for what it actually is. But anyway, so that they have they think that they are being progressive in talking about. I mean, so it's kind of like it's a little bit of a head fake is the wrong word, but it is kind of a head fake, that they are head faking themselves and head faking their audience in saying what they're saying is progressive, but really the message is conservative and it's right wing. Okay, and they're saying, well, another way to put it is they think we can use this hard money view, the view of money being a hard thing that the government needs to get from rich people and then spend on you, or spend differently. They think that that's all we do is we need to bend. So we need to, and this is a commentary that modern money theory economists talk about all the time. It's like they're literally, putting the whole progressive agenda on hold, waiting for politicians to tax the rich, okay, or tax corporations, and that they think this is the crucial element. This is the juice, so to speak, of a progressive, that you're in a way that you're punishing those people for by taxing them more. And I am for taxing them more. So to be absolutely double confusing, but also not confusing, there are two issues here. One is, are the rich too rich? Absolutely yes. Corporate taxes, I'm not really sure that taxing corporations more highly is necessarily the way to go. We do need a fair system of corporate taxation. We need to have equal. And I support actually the Biden administration's initiatives to equalize corporate taxes across countries. So in some sense, we don't have tax shopping by corporations. I think that's an excellent idea. But critically, the most critical thing is to tax wealth and to tax and to favor income over wealth. Rather, right now we favor wealth. We should favor income in the tax system. So a doctor who works hard and has lots of medical debt, or maybe not anymore, but anyway is a very hard worker and is doing something productive for society, pays a much higher tax rate, as actually Cenk points this out, than investors who don't do very much at all, and they get right now a 15% tax rate if they pay that at all. So anyway, so there are all kinds of things that need to be done in the tax code, but it has nothing to do with how much money or not almost nothing to do with how much money the government can spend at any given moment. Okay, and almost nothing. Okay, it has a little bit to do with it, but it has nothing to do with really the amount that can be spent in any given year, and it has something to do with how the fairness of the system is designed, also whether people are participating in the monetary system. Taxation is about participation and driving the value of the dollar by requiring people to pay taxes and to pay them fairly and to pay them, the sense of it being a just system, so people, while they don't love paying taxes, they will never love it. That they, or not many people, some people might enjoy it in some form or other, but that they will understand that the system, that they need dollars, and dollars are things that are things that help the economy overall, to people to have commerce with each other and so forth and so on, and promote fairness and discourage criminality, discourage theft, scamming, so forth and so on, which all require the administration of a much better and more fair administration of the legal system than we currently have. So there's a lot of moving parts to a really good, fair monetary system, but it is a fiat system, and a fiat system is a good system. It's a much better system than a hard money system. And my basic point is that Cenk and Anna haven't really come to terms with that, and by extension the Young Turks that follow them. And in a way, it's become a little bit of a holy writ over there. And I hear John Idarola talking in a similar way. And I think that they need certainly more diversity of voices on economics in their certainly, and I'm saying this is really basic, and even though modern money theory has some sense become almost common sense in the COVID era in many quarters, it somehow hasn't reached the Young Turks in that way, and they even talk as if they're for the spending that MMT perspective would make much easier for them to argue for, but then they twist themselves into knots to try to fit that into their antiquated and pre-Keynesian, okay, in other words, Keynes, who passed away in late 40s, okay, 1940s, so in other words, someone whose contribution to economics is basically from the 1920s to the 1940s, mostly 30s and 40s, has not reached, and that who is essentially the father of modern macroeconomics, that has not gotten into their understanding, and it would require them to study some more about economics, not necessarily get a degree in it, but I think it's possible that they could change their views. And there are many, many, many more important things happening right now in our politics, but I am trying to point this out here now because I believe this is something that is an unintended, self-owned by them, that and their politics, and they have evinced such certainty in telling the narrative that they do about the economy and about interest rates and about taxation, that I think that they need to take a step back and really reconsider. So anyway, and by the way, they are not alone in holding those views. I said Bernie Sanders holds them. Also, there are lots of deficit hawks out there who, or hard money people, or gold bugs, or whatever you want to. I mean, they don't call themselves gold bugs anymore, but they are like gold bugs. In other words, people who believe that government is the same as a business, as a household, that it uses the currency rather than issues it. So it's not like they can't find other people to echo their views, but it's particularly jarring, given that they are so that they're a big, largely progressive network of people, and that also some of the Congress people that they are trying to support, like Rashida Tlaib and I believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, are in advance of them in terms of their understanding of modern money theory and let's say Keynesian or post-Keynesian economics. Okay, you don't have to call it MMT if you don't want to, but certainly understanding the flexibility, the flexible use of the currency and of interest rates, and by governments and by and the fact that we have generally what might be called a soft currency. So anyway, if you like this video, please like it. Okay, and if you are liking the content on Politics 2100, please subscribe, and also please share any comments you have if you think I am fair or not in my representation of this theme, and also any other commentary or thoughts you might have. So please share that below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.